The sun hung low over the Blythe River Canyon, casting golden hues on the Three Rondavels. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the whisper of ancient spirits carried by the wind. At the edge of the cliffside village, Saifo sat on his porch, his eyes fixed on his neighbor's yard. Just yesterday, the old man who lived next door had nothing but a simple one-roomed rondavel, much like everyone else in the village. But this morning, Saifo woke to something strange, a two-story mansion standing in its place. Saifo frowned. He had not heard the sound of construction, no hammering, no workers. He had seen no bricks delivered, no cement mixed. The house had simply appeared, taller, grander, overnight. "Have you seen this?" he asked his younger brother, Themba, who was busy carving a wooden spoon beside him. Themba shrugged. "Maybe he hired builders while we were asleep." "Impossible," Saifo said. "How do you build a whole second floor in one night?" Themba smirked. "Maybe the ancestors blessed him. Or maybe he has found something we haven't." Saifo shivered. In Mpumalanga, folk did not take lightly to talk of dark magic. That night, as the crickets sang their lullaby and the winds whispered secrets through the valley, Saifo lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He had to see for himself. He would stay up and watch. The night air was crisp, the moon casting long shadows on the dirt road. Saifo wrapped himself in a blanket and settled on his porch, eyes locked on the mansion. Hours passed. The village fell silent. Even the owls seemed to hold their breath. But nothing stirred in the neighbor's yard. Sleep tugged at Saifo's eyelids. His head bobbed forward, then snapped back up. He had to stay awake. He had to. The first light of dawn kissed the sky, and Saifo gasped. The mansion was taller. A third floor. His heart pounded in his chest. He had been awake all night, and yet he had seen nothing. No workers. No movement. He ran to Themba, shaking him awake. It grew again. Themba rubbed his eyes, yawning. "Maybe you just missed it." "I was awake. I saw nothing." "Then how did it get taller?" Saifo had no answer. That evening, as Saifo fetched water from the communal well, his neighbor, Mpumalanga, approached him. The old man was short and wiry, his face lined with age, his eyes dark and knowing. "You look tired, young man," Mpumalanga said. "Are you not sleeping well?" Saifo hesitated. "I've been keeping watch." A slow smile crept onto the old man's face. "Watching what?" Saifo clenched his jaw. "Your house." Mpumalanga chuckled. "Curiosity is a heavy burden. It keeps men awake when they should be resting. Go to sleep, Saifo." "How does your house grow?" Saifo pressed. The old man's smile never faltered, but his eyes turned sharp. "Sleep, Saifo," he repeated, his voice low and firm. That night, Saifo ignored the warning. He would not sleep. He had to know the truth. But as the hours stretched, exhaustion weighed him down. His limbs ached, his mind blurred. Before he realized it, his head fell forward. And when he woke, the house was taller again. Frustrated, Saifo decided he needed help. He told Themba he would stay up again, and his brother offered to sit with him. But before nightfall, something unexpected happened. A knock on the door. A young woman stood outside. She was stunning, dark skin like polished mahogany, large eyes shimmering like the Blythe River, lips full and inviting. She carried a basket filled with snacks. "My father sent me," she said. "I'm Nelady." Saifo stared at her. "Mpumalanga is your father?" She nodded. "He worries about you. Said you're overworking yourself." I thought we could eat and watch movies together. Saifo hesitated. He wanted to stay awake. But Nelody was mesmerizing. He let her in. They laughed, ate, and sipped from the cool drinks she brought. A warm drowsiness washed over him. He fought to keep his eyes open, but Nelody's voice was soothing, her presence comforting. His eyelids grew heavy. The world faded to black. Morning light poured through the window. Saifo bolted upright, heart hammering. The house had grown again. He turned to Nelody, but she was gone. Panic gripped him. She had tricked him. Mpumalanga's warning echoed in his mind. Sleep, Saifo. No. No more games. Tonight, he would not close his eyes. For 2 nights, he forced himself to stay awake. The house did not grow. But he was suffering. His body ached. His thoughts blurred. He had never felt exhaustion like this. Why punish yourself? Themba asked. You're making yourself sick. Saifo knew he was right. Maybe if he slept just for a few hours, just a little rest. The next morning, the house was taller. This was no ordinary trick. This was something else. Desperate, Saifo came up with a final plan. If he couldn't stay awake, he would let the cameras do it for him. He bought a set of surveillance cameras and installed them, all pointing at Mpumalanga's house. That night, he surrendered to sleep, knowing the cameras would capture the truth. But when he woke, pain coursed through his body. His muscles burned. His head throbbed. He felt like he had been laboring all night. With trembling fingers, he opened the footage. And what he saw made his blood run cold. It was him. He was the one building the house. Brick by brick. With his own hands. And he had no memory of it. Saifo sat frozen, eyes fixed on the screen. The footage played in eerie silence. There he was, moving like a man possessed. His face was blank, his limbs mechanical as he stacked bricks and laid mortar beneath the moonlight. He scrubbed his face with his hands, trying to process what he had seen. This can't be real, he whispered. Themba, sitting beside him, rewound the footage and played it again. You were building it, he said in disbelief. But how? You were asleep right next to me. A chill crept up Saifo's spine. It's not normal, he said. Mpumalanga's house, there's something wrong with it. Themba leaned back, shaking his head. What if it's a curse? Saifo's stomach twisted at the thought. In their village, stories of curses were whispered but never spoken aloud. And Mpumalanga, there had always been rumors. They said he came from a bloodline that knew the old ways, things that belonged to the darkness. But why him? Why was he the one building the house? I have to stop this, Saifo said, his voice hard. I'll confront Mpumalanga tonight.